Jaina Agama Gyan.
नमो अर्हंताणं नमो सिद्धाणं नमो आयर्याणं नमो उवज्जयाणं नमो लोये सपसहूणम्.
Antiquity of Jainism. Ancient history of India reveals that there were three major religions in India. They were Brahmanism, Buddhism, and Jainism. Latest research and excavation at Mohenjo-daro and Harappa has shown that Jainism existed before 5000 years ago, even though Jains believe it to be eternal. Though Hinduism believes it is a culture with hundreds of religions in it, thinks that it originated during the time of Rig Veda from Hinduism, but Jainism, Jain Dharma existed even during, it is a way of life. Hinduism is not a religion, same way Jainism is not a religion. They both existed, it is a way of life which existed in this divine country for more than millions and millions of years ago. There is truth in the Jaina idea that their religion goes back to a remote antiquity, the antiquity in question being that of the pre-Aryan, so-called Dravidian, illuminated by the discovery of a series of great late Stone Age cities in Indus Valley, dating from 3rd and perhaps even 4th millennium BC. Claims of eternity. Naturally, the followers of every religion faith proclaim their religion as having its source in antiquity, and Jainas are no exception to this. The tradition and the legendary accounts prove the existence of Jaina Dharma as eternal. Jain Dharma is revealed again and again in every cycle period of the universe by 48 Tirthankaras, 24 in each half cycle. The Jainas divide the whole span of time into two equally spanned cycles, namely Ussarapani and Avsarapani. During Ussarapani, there is a gradual ascendancy in moral and physical state of the universe, while during Avsarapani, the case is just reversed. The gradual descendant of moral and physical state of universe. Each of these two is subdivided into 6 eras, each extending from over crores of years to 22,000 of years. This time cycle goes on endlessly, and humans like us rise to be Tirthankaras, Jina, at regular intervals. They themselves practice the eternal principles of Jaina Dharma and attain omniscience, Kevala Gyan, and preach and expound the same. Pre-Aryan roots. Almost all the scholars agree that Jaina Dharma has pre-Aryan roots in the cultural history of India. As Dr. A.N. Upadhyaya remarked, the origins of Jainism go back to prehistoric times. They are to be sought in the fertile valley of Ganga, where they flourished in the past, even before the advent of Aryans with their priestly religion, a society of recluses who laid much stress on individual exertion, on practice of a code of morality and devotion to austerities as means of attaining religious summum bonum. In the same vein, Joseph Campbell commented, Sankhya and Yoga represented a later psychological sophistication of principles preserved in Jainism. They together are theory and practice of a single philosophy. In the Buddhist scriptures, Majjhima Nikaya, Buddha himself tells us about his ascetic life and its ordinances, which are in conformity with the Jain monk's code of conduct. Critical and comparative study has brought to light Several words like Ashravas, Samvara, which have been used by Jains in the original sense but which have been mentioned in Buddhist literature in figurative sense. On the basis of these words, Dr. Jacobi has concluded that Jainism is much older than the religion of Buddha, and therefore it is incorrect to imagine Jainism as the offshoot of Buddhism. Some historians think that Jainism is no doubt much prior to Buddhism, but it is a Protestant creed which in revolted against the sacrifices of the Vedic cult. The advanced researchers show that the above stand has no foundation. The respectable and reliable sacred books of Hindus themselves establish the most ancient nature of Jain thought. Rigveda, the oldest Hindu scripture, refers to Lord Rishabha Deo, who was the founder of Jainism. He also talks about Vaman avatar incarnation, who is the 15th incarnation amongst the 24 incarnations. Rishabha's name comes as the 9th incarnation of Vishnu. Rishabha's name occurs before Vaman or Dwarf Ram, Krishna and Buddha incarnations. Therefore, it is quite clear that Rishabha must have flourished long before the composition of Rigveda. The great scholars Dr. S. Radhakrishnan, ex-president of Indian Union, in his India philosophy has observed Jain tradition ascribes the origin of the system to Rishabhadeva, the first Tirthankara. There is no doubt that Jainism prevailed even before Vardhaman or Parshvanath. The Yajurveda mentions the name of three Tirthankaras, Rishabha, Ajitanatha and Aristonemi. The Bhagavad Purana endorses the views of Rishabhadeva was the founder of Jainism. The excavations made at Mohenjo-daro and Harappa show that Jainism existed 5,000 years ago because the pose of the standing deities on the Indus seals resembles the pose of standing image of Rishabhadeva obtained from Mathura. The feelings of abandonment that characterizes the standing figure of the Indus seals 3 to 5 with as bull in the foreground may be the prototype of Rishabha. Rishabha has been spoken of as Yogeshwar by the poet Dinesh Sena in his Mahapurana. Therefore, the Indus Valley excavated material glaring establishes the fact that the founder of Jainism belonged to the pre-Vedic period. The nude Jain idol in Patna Museum of Lohanipur helps us to support the above contention. The critical study of some Vedic hymns like Nadasiya Shukta shows that there must have been a peculiar current of thought existing in the pre-Vedic period which influenced the Vedas. Dr. Mangaladev feels that Jain philosophy might be a branch of the pre-Vedic current of thoughts. Some Jain terms like Pudgal matter supports the aforesaid point. A glance over the glorious past of Jainism reveals the fact that the lives of Rishabhadev and the succeeding 23 Tirthankaras had deeply impressed the entire world culture. When Alexander invaded India, he came across a host of nude Jain saints in Takshashila, whom the Greek writers call gymnosophists. The Greek word connotes the nude philosopher. The mystic group of Israel called the Essenes was much influenced by these gymnosophists who were preaching their message of ahimsa, the central truth in Jainism, to the people of Alexander in Egypt. Historical records tell us that the Greeks were much influenced by Jain thought. Alexander had taken one Jain saint, Calanus, with him to his country It is to be noted that the essence of Israel were ascetics following the tenets of Ahimsa. They had great hold upon the people and they commanded deep influence in Palestine. John the Baptist was an ascetic teacher of this school of Essenism. Jesus Christ, the founder of Christianity, was much influenced by John's non-violence cult and other teachers of Essenism. In 600 BC, this cult of non-violence was progressing beyond Syria and Palestine. The Jain teachings has also influenced Pythagoras, the philosopher of pre-Socratic period, who flourished in 532 BC and led the non-violence way of life. During this period, Lord Mahavira, the 24th Tirthankara, whom the ignorant people called the founder of Jainism, was living. Perhaps Lord Mahavira teaching had influenced the people of far-off countries. Process of synthesis. Evidently, with the emergence of Upanishad era, the process of synthesis of non-Aryan Sramana and Aryan Vedic culture started. The social, economic, and political interaction between Aryan settlers and their more advanced non-Aryan brothers enriched their knowledge of the former. They began to interpret their Vedas in the light of this enhanced knowledge. At this stage, a recapitulation of periodic division of early Indian history would be of some interest to understand the long process of integration of the non-Aryan and Aryan culture. Roughly the period corresponding to 3500 BC to 1500 BC is considered to be the period of Indus Valley civilization of non-Aryan races in India. This coincides with the Sumerian and Akkad civilizations of Middle East prospered in about 2300 BC and Minoan civilization of Crete. Thus, the period corresponding over 2000 years can be carved out for River Valley civilization, which spread over northern and western parts of India, extending up to Saurashtra in Gujarat. It is a story which is 5 to 6,000 years ago. Aryan invasions of India dated approximately before 1500 BC, about 3 to 4,000 years ago from today, practically coincided with the Hellenic invasions of Greece. They seem to have brought some portions of Rig Veda and other Vedas with them from 1500 BC to 800 BC. A period about 700 years may be termed as Vedic and subsequent Brahmana period. Brahmanas elaborate the rules and details for the employment of the mantras or hymns at various sacrificial rituals, as a result of which the priestly class, with sole and exclusive right of performing rituals, gained much social prominence and virtually dominated the society. During this period, the Aryans had completely settled and had fully vanquished the non-Aryan races. These were being absorbed in their social structure principally as Dasyus, labor class, and were treated as second-class citizens. However, the Aryans had tremendous capacity to absorb and to assimilate all new things of life. They not only adopted many cultural and philosophical thinking of their non-Aryan brothers, but also enriched the same by their own original thoughts. They realized that beyond this mundane existence as well as afterlife, there is something distinct. For attaining that something, the propitiation of gods by sacrifices and offerings of living beings is not the way. When acquainted with the non-Aryan theories of austerities, non-violences, karma and so, they realized that something the aim of their pursuit could be apprehended by working on these theories. This becomes quite evident when in Chandogya Upanishad, Rishi Aruni explains to his son the newly found secret of the real nature of the self, not taught to him during the course of the long term of his education in existing Vedas. Nachiketa of Kathopanishad goes to Yama, god to death, to learn the science of Atma, soul, by asking the question, when a man dies, does he still exist or not? Thus, there was a permanent intellectual agitation in the post Brahmanic period when the rishis of Upanishads began to challenge the usefulness of sacrificial rituals and began to apply their mind objectively to the teachings of Sraman traditions of ancient India. This trend had started long before Upanishadic period, but it gained momentum only during that period. 23rd Tirthankara of Jainas, Parshvanath, recognized now as a historical person, flourished during 872 to 772 BC, the time when the Upanishads were getting on full swing. Like his successor Mahavira, Parshva also had a great organizing capacity. He organized the Brahmanic order and propounded Chaturyama of four principles, namely non-violence, Hamsa, truth, Satyam, non-stealing, Asatya, and restrictions on possession, Apagriha. His Sarmana teachings had great influence on contemporary thinking, and with the advent of Mahavira, the time became ripe for the final and decisive assault on priestly Brahmanic culture of rituals and violent sacrifices. Both Mahavira and his contemporary Buddha led a relentless crusade against the social and cultural evils prevalent at that time. This crusade went on with such a vigor till 8th century AD that but for the advent of the great Shankara, who assimilated Sramana ideas of Buddhism with his brilliant exposition of Vedanta, Vedic culture would have been practically eclipsed throughout India. Now the Sramanic ideas of non-violence, karma and soul have become so much identified with the Vedic culture that there is absolutely no difference between the attitude of a Jaina and a Hindu towards life's problem, individual or social. These attitudes are so identical that unless one tells you that he is a Jaina by religion, you cannot make out from his behavior that he is a non-Hindu by faith.
यदक्षरपदभ्रष्टं मात्राहीनं च यद्भवेत् तत्सर्वं क्षम्यतां देव महावीर नमोऽस्तु ते।
Jaina Agama Gyan.
नमो अर्हन्ताणं नमो सिद्धाणं नमो आयर्याणं नमो उवज्जयाणं नमो लोये सपसहूणम्।
Theory of Karma. Why do some students do well in school while others struggle? Why do some earn money easily while others are poor? Why do some suffer while others enjoy their lives? Why do some live longer while others die at a young age? The answers to all of these questions is the effects of our karma. The 9 types of negative thoughts that will steal your joy is all or nothing thinking, always thinking, focusing on negative, thinking with your feelings, build, beatings, labeling, fortune telling, mind reading, and blame. The theory of karma explains how, why, and what happens to us. It also explains the role that karmas play in our lives, how we accumulate karmas, and how we get rid of them. Karmas are the derivatives of karma particles. Karma particles are non-living matter scattered all around us and all over the universe. They are very fine particles that cannot be seen even with a microscope. A cluster of innumerable karma particles is called karman vargana. When you act with passions like attachment, anger, greed, ego, or deceitfulness, karman vargans are attracted towards your soul. Karman vargans that are attached to your soul are called karmas. process of bondage. The following paragraphs has been devised from the original. Whenever we think, speak or act, karman vargans around us are attracted to our souls. This process called ashrava in Sanskrit. The vargans become bonded to our soul depending on our passions, anger, ego, greed and deceit. Once they are bonded, they are called karmas. The bondage is called bandh in Sanskrit. The karma can be further divided into two concepts, bhava karma and dravya karma. Bhava karma is the non-physical thinking or activity that attracts the karman vargans. Dravya karma is the physical karma vargans themselves that have attached to the soul. There cannot be dravya karma without the bhava karma, and both of these concepts occur at the same time. In a simplified sense, one can think of the bhava karma as thoughts because mental activity is at the base of all activity of the soul. However, the true understanding is that the bhava karma is the non-physical part of the karma. There are three ways to perform activities mentally, verbally and physically. We can take each of these a step further in three more ways. We can perform the activities ourselves, ask someone else to perform the activities for us, or encourage someone else to perform the activities. Thus, there are 9 ways to perform any activity. Out of all these activities, mental activities have the farthest reaching effect on our souls. At the time of bondage of karmas to the soul, 4 characteristics of karmas are decided. They are prakriti, nature, pradesha, quantity, sthiti, duration, anubhag, intensity. The nature and quantity of karmas depend on the vigor of the activities, while the duration and intensity of karmas depend upon the intensity of the desires behind the activities. Prakriti, nature of bondage. There are 8 types of karmas depending upon our activities. You can accumulate one or more of these 8 karmas. Jnanavaranya, Darshanavaanya, Antaraya, Mohaniya, Nama, body determined, or Gotra, Vedaniya and Ayusha. These karmas are grouped into 2 categories, Ghati karmas and Aghati karmas. Ghati karmas destroy the true nature of the soul. Aghati karmas do not destroy the nature of the soul, but affect the body in which the soul resides. The 4 types of karmas are Ghati karmas, and last 4 are Aghati karmas. Pradesh, quantity of bondage. Pradesh, quantity of bondage. If the physical vigor of our activities is slight, then we accumulate fewer karmas, particles, but if the physical vigor is strong, then we accumulate larger number of karma particles on our soul. Sthiti, duration of bondage. The duration of karmic particles to be bonded with the soul is decided by the intensity of our desires at the time of the activity. The milder the intensity, the shorter is the duration of the bondage of the karmas. The stronger the intensity, the longer is the duration of bondage. The time karmas stay bonded to the soul range from a fraction of a second to an innumerable numbers of years. The time karmas stay bonded to the soul range from a fraction of a second to an innumerable number of years. Anubhaga, intensity of results. The intensity of karmas depends upon how intense our passions are at the time of our activities. The lesser the intensity of our passions, the less severe is the result of the bondage. The greater the intensity, the more severe the result of the bondage. When karma is attached to the soul, there are 4 levels of bondage. krutstha or sisthil, loose. Karmas can be easily shed by regret. Bandha or ghadha, tight. Karmas can be shed by offering an apology. Nidhata, tight. Karmas can shed by very strong efforts like austerity. Nikachit, tightest. Karmas can only be shed by bearing the results. It should be realized that it is not always true that we have to wait in order to bear the results of our karmas. We can change the course of our karmas before they mature. It can be changed in duration and intensity as well as in nature too. This is very important point because it means that not only we do have control over our karmas, but that we can change our fate. For exemplary purpose, let me understand some terms. Abhaddakala, the duration of bondage of karmas to the soul, which starts from the time of the karma's bondage until its maturity. Bandha, bondage of karmas to the soul. Udaya refers to the results of karmas being manifested in normal during their normal maturation time. Udirana refers to the results of karmas being manifested prematurely. Satta refers to those karmas which are dormant on the soul. Shankar, Kramana, depending of our activity, bonded karmas can transform within some of their subtypes. Examples, Shata and Ashata. Vedaniya karmas are the two subtypes of Vedaniya karmas. Shata, Vedaniya karma causes comfort, while Ashata, Vedaniya karma causes discomfort. If our current activities cause comfort to someone, then our Ashata Vedaniya karma gets transformed to Shata Vedaniya karma, and so it works for opposite activities. Utkarshana, increase of duration and intensity of karmas which are already bonded to the soul. Apakramana, diminution of duration and intensity of karmas which are already bonded. Upashama, state in which karmas are suppressed and cannot produce results. Nidhatika, bondage, type of bondage in which karmas are neither brought into operation prematurely nor transferred into that of another subclass, but may increase or decrease in duration and intensity of results. Nikachit, bondage, type of bondage in which karmas do not operate prematurely, nor transferred, nor increase or decrease in duration or intensity of results. Samudhata, after achieving perfect knowledge, Kevali Bhagavan, omniscient, omnipotent, realized that the duration and quantity of Vedaniya, Nama and Gotra karmas were greater than that of Ayushya karma. Therefore, by expanding the size and shape of the soul, Atma Pradesha, Kevali Bhagavan made the duration and quantity of Vedaniya, Nama and Gotra karmas equal to that of Ayushya karma. This process is called Samudhata. Shaila Shekharana, immediately before his final death, Nirvana, Kevali Bhagavan went into very pure meditation during which there was no activity and hence no inflow of karma at all. This stage lasted very short period during which one can speak 5 short letters only. It is called Shailashikharana. During this time, Kevali Bhagavan discarded all remaining Vedaniya, Nama, Gotra and Ayushya karmas forever. Karmas abstract these 8 attributes of a pure soul. Keval Jnana, perfect knowledge, state in which the soul knows everything past, present and future that is happening in the world all at the same time. Jnana Varinya karma obscures this attribute. Kevala Darshana, perfect perception, state in which the soul can see, hear and perceive everything from the past, present and future all at the same time. Darshavaranya karma obscures this attribute. Anantavirya, infinite power, state in which the soul has infinite power. Antaraya karma obstructs this attribute. Vitraga, victory over inner enemies, state in which the pure soul has no attachment or hatred for anyone. Mohaniya karma obscures this attribute. Aforementioned four attributes of the soul are experienced by Lord Arihanta. The following four attributes are experienced only when the soul is liberated. When Lord Arihantas become Lord Siddhas upon their death, infinite bliss, no joy or sorrow, state in which there is no pain, suffering or happiness, the soul has ultimate peace. Vedaniya karma obscures this attribute. Ajar Mar, end of the cycle of birth and death, point at which the soul is never again born. Aishya karma obscures this attribute. Arupi, no form, state in which the pure soul no longer occupies a body and is formless. Namakarma obscures this attribute. Agurlahu, end of status, fact that all liberated souls are equal. None is higher or lower in status than any other. Gotra karma obscures this attribute. The 10 ways to boost good karma is pay it forward, look for opportunities to assist others, find goodness in each person and help them shine. When you realize you have made a mistake, correct it. Be open and willing to share your knowledge. Do the right thing even when no one is looking. Bring an aura of happiness and smile wherever you go. Approach all things with a spirit of generosity. Be gentle with the earth. Reduce your carbon footprint. Volunteer in your community or be a mentor. Practice being the best version of the highest vision you have ever had about yourself.
यदक्षरपदभ्रष्टं मात्राहीनं च यद्भवेत् तत्सर्वं क्षम्यतां देव महावीर नमोऽस्तु ते.
Jaina Agama Gyan.
नमो अर्हन्ताणं नमो सिद्धाणं नमो आयर्याणं नमो उवज्जयाणं नमो लोये सपसहूणम्.
Other aspects of Jaina Dharma. Aghati Karma. In this life we see so many different people. Some are prettier than others. Some are prettier than others. Some live longer than others. What is the cause of such imbalances? The answer to the question is karmas. Karmas are grouped into two groups: Aghati, destructive karmas, and Aghati karmas, non-destructive. Aghati karmas obstruct the true nature of the soul, while Aghati karmas affect the body in which the soul resides. As long as we have Aghati karmas, our souls will be caged in some kind of body and we will have to experience pain and suffering in many different forms. Only pure souls, siddhas, are formless and experience ultimate bliss. We shall all strive for this stage. The Aghati karmas are Vedaniya, feeling, producing karma; Nam, body determining karma; Gotra, status determining karma; Ayushya, age determining karma. Vedaniya, feeling, producing karma. Vedaniya karma is responsible for all the pleasure and pain we feel. Some of the effects of Vedaniya karma are good health, happiness, sickness, sorrow. Vedaniya karma is divided into two subtypes: Ashta, unhappiness causing Vedaniya; Shata, happiness causing Vedaniya. Ashata Vedaniya karma is built by causing pain to others, harassing others, killing others, causing others to worry, and by making these miserable. Shata Vedaniya karma is built by making others happy, helping others, giving others protection and peace, and sharing with and comforting others. Vedaniya karma can be shed by offering comfort, kindness, help, protection and peace to others. When we rid ourselves of Vedaniya karma, our souls attains infinite bliss. The pure soul has no disease, pain, sorrow, boredom, or uneasiness and is ever blissful. Nam body determining karma. Nam karma determines what type of body the soul will have and what it will look like. Nam karma is divided into 103 subtypes. The major groups are Gati, existence determining Nam karma, Jatinama, number of sense determining Nam karma, Sharir, body determining Nam karma, Angopanga, chief and parts of bodies determining Nam karma, Samhanana, firmness of joints determining Nam karma, Samsthana, figure determining Nam karma, Bandhan, different bodies binding Nam karma, Samaghatana, different pudgals of bodies binding Nam karmas, Varna, color determining Nam karma, Gnadha, order determining Nam karma, Ras, taste determining Nam karma, Sparsh, touching determining Nam karma, Anupurvi, direction determining Nam karma, Vihaya Gati, movement determining Nam karma, Tirthankara, to be Tirthankara determining Nam karma, Shubh Nam karma, Ashubh Nam karma. Some effects of Nam karma are beauty, ugliness, good fortune, misfortune, prosperity, adversity, honor and dishonor. One may be born as a Dev, human, bird, animal, a plant or hellish beings on account of Nama karma. 103 subtypes of Nama karmas are also grouped into two broad groups: Shubh, good Nama karma; Ashubh, bad Nama karmas. Shubh karma is acquired by getting kind to all people, being kind to all people, being gentle and helpful, maintaining good conduct and leading a simple life. Those who strictly follow the discipline and rules of religion earn Devagati Nama karma. Those who are charitable, merciful and perform religious activities earn Manushyak Nama karma. Those who acquire Tirthankara Nama karma become Tirthankaras in life after death. Ashubh karma is acquired by making fun of people who are ugly or short, or by showing off our build. Being proud of physical beauty, power, caste, intelligence, knowledge and wealth also build Ashubh Nam karma. Those who cheat and deceive others earn Tiranch Nam karma. Those who are violent and kill others earn hellish Nam karma. Nam karma can be shed by always being kind, loving, generous and patient, and by admiring those who are beautiful and those who are not. The observance of purity also helps to shed Ashubh Nama karma. When we rid ourselves of Nama karma, our souls become arupi. In this state, the soul is freed from its body and becomes formless. Gotra, status determining karma. Gotra karma determines your social and economical status. There are two subtypes of Gotra karmas: Nicha, lower status determining Gotra karma; Ucha, higher status determining Gotra karma. Nicha Gotra karma causes you to be low and poor in society. Ucha Gotra karma causes you to be high, well respected and wealthy in society. Nicha Gotra karma is built by disrespecting people, being egoistic and proud, and making fun of others. Ucha Gotra karma is built by having devotion and faith in the Jain Sangh, not looking down upon anyone, being free from pride, respecting and honoring all, and treating everyone with love. Gotra karma can be shed by being respectful towards those who have status and towards those who do not. Once our Gotra karma is shed, our souls become Aguru Laghu. Ayushya, age determining karma. Ayushya karma decides your lifespan. Ayushya karma may be shortened somewhat but cannot be prolonged. The Ayushya karma for the next life is decided only once in each lifetime, specifically when 2/3 of your current life has passed. If it is not decided during the next 2/3 of your remaining lifetime. For example, let us assume that you were live 99 years, then your Ayushya karma will be decided when you pass 66 years. If it was not decided by then, Ayushya karma will be decided when next 22 years were passed, and so on. Ayushya karma will not be acquired if the soul is going to be liberated in the current life. There are 4 subtypes of Ayushya karma: Naraka, infernal Ayushya karma; Tiryancha, animal Ayushya karma; Manushya Ayushya karma; Dev, celestial Ayushya karma. Depending upon its effects, some may live short lives while others may live longer. Ayushya karma is built by engaging in violent activities and taking the lives of others. Ayushya karma can be shed by showing compassion towards everybody. Once all of our Ayushya karmas have been shed, our souls attain Akshaya Sthiti. In this state, the soul becomes immortal and is never reborn.
यदक्षरपदभ्रष्टं मात्राहीनं च यद्भवेत् तत्सर्वं क्षम्यतां देव महावीर नमोस्तुते.
Jaina Agama Gyan.
नमो अर्हन्ताणं, नमो सिद्धाणं, नमो आयर्याणं, नमो उवज्जयाणं, नमो लोये सपसहूणम्.
Ghati Karma. If a soul has the inherent power to know and see everything, then why does our soul not know and see everything? If a soul is to be non-attached and has infinite power, then why do we have attachment and why we are weak? Karmas are responsible for such distortions of soul. Karmas fall into 2 groups: Ghati, destructive karmas, and Aghati, non-destructive karmas. Ghati karmas obstruct the true nature of the soul while they are attached to it. When Ghati karmas are destroyed, the soul exhibits its true nature of total knowledge and perception as well as non-attachment and infinite power. Harihantas and Siddhas have destroyed these Ghati karmas, and that is why their souls exhibit total knowledge and perception as well as non-attachment and infinite power. We should all strive for this stage of destroying Ghati karmas. Ghati karmas are Jnana Varanya, knowledge obscuring karma; Darshana Varnya, perception obscuring karma; Antari, obstructing; Mohaniya, deluging karma. 8 main types of karmas obscure and distort the qualities of the soul, that is, knowledge covering, intuition covering, deluding, viewing deluding, conduct deluding, and energy obstructing. Makes future programs for the soul is feeling producing, pleasure and pain, lifespan determining, body making, and status determining, geographical and societal. Jnanavaranya, knowledge obscuring karma. As the name implies, Jnanavaranya karma obscures the knowledge power of the soul. Those who have less Jnanavaranya karma are more intelligent and learn more easily, while those who have more Jnanavaranya karma will have problems retaining knowledge. There are 5 subtypes of Jnanavaranya karma. Mati Jnanavaranya, that is the senses and mind oriented knowledge obscuring karma. Srut Jnanavaranya karma, writing interpretation oriented knowledge obscuring karma. Avadhi Jnanavaranya, remote viewing knowledge obscuring karma. Manaha Paraya Jnanavaranya, thoughts reading knowledge obscuring karma. Keval Jnanavaranya, perfect knowledge obscuring karma. Mati Jnanavaranya, senses and mind oriented knowledge obscuring karma. And Mati Jnana refers to the knowledge which is attained through the use of the senses and mind. Karma that blocks this function of the mind and senses is known as Mati Jnanavaranya karma. Therefore, if someone had more mati jnanavarinya karma, then he or she would be less intelligent, while on the other hand, if someone had less mati jnanavarinya karma, then he or she would be more intelligent. Shrut jnanavarinya, writing, interpretation, knowledge obscuring karma, the knowledge which is acquired by understanding of words, writing, or gestures is known as Shrut Jnanam. The karma that obscures this process of gaining knowledge is known as Shrut Jnanavarinya karma. For this reason, it is understood why some people can remember things after reading only once, while others cannot remember even after reading them many times. Avadhi Jnanavarinya, remote viewing, knowledge obscuring karma, the soul, through avadhi jnana can see the material things far beyond our normal eyes can see without the help of senses or mind. The karma that obscures this type of knowledge is known as avadhi jnana varinya karma. Different people have a different range of distance they can see. Manaha paraya jnana varinya, thoughts, reading, knowledge obscuring karma. The soul through Manaparaya Jnana can know the mental thoughts of others without the help of senses and mind. The karma that obscures this type of knowledge is known as Manaparaya Jnanavarinya karma. The soul who would be a Tirthankara in that life would attain Manaparaya Jnana at the time of renunciation of worldly life. Keval Jnana Varinya, perfect knowledge obscuring karma. The soul has the power to know what is happening now, what happened in the past, and what will happen in the future in the whole universe at the same time. Such knowledge is known as Keval Jnana, and the karma that obscures this type of Keval of knowledge is known as Keval Jnana Varinya karma. Haryans and Siddhas have destroyed Keval Jnana Varinya karma, and that is why they have attained Keval Jnana. Some of the effects of Jnana Varinya karma are ignorance, inability to understand, incapability of being taught, illiteracy, and stammering. Jnana Varinya karma is accumulated if we condemn knowledge. Scholars or enlightened people show laziness, contempt, or displeasure in studying and learning, or show any disrespect for knowledge and knowledge relating things, such as tearing out pages or throwing books around. Jnanavarinya karma can be shed by worshipping knowledge, paying reverence and respect to teachers, showing respect for books, and by studying religion regularly with humility. When we rid ourselves of Jnanavarinya karma, we will develop Keval Jnana and become Anantigyani. Our soul will know everything from the past, present, and future all at the same time. Darshanavarinya, perception obscuring karma. Darshanavarinya karma diminishes the powers of our perception through the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and skin to the extent that we may not able to see well, hear well, smell well. There are 9 subtypes of Darshanavarinya karma. Chakshu Darshanavarinya, vision perception obscuring karma. Chakshu Darshanavarinya, non-vision perception obscuring karma. Avadhi Darshanavarinya, remote seeing perception obscuring karma. Kevali Darshanavarinya, perfect perception obscuring karma. Nidra, light sleep producing karma. Nidra, sleep producing karma. Prachala, sound sleep producing karma. Prachala, exceedingly intensive sleep producing karma. Staya naridhi nidra, somnambulistic sleep producing karma. Some of the effects of darshan varinya karma are blindness, inadequacy of the senses, sleepiness, swooning, and sleepwalking. Darshan varinya karma is accumulated on account of condemning the principles of dharma, disrespecting the virtues, and trying to find faults in other people's perception. Darshan varinya karma is shed by worshipping faithfully, having faith in the jinas, and being respectful to spiritual teachers and dharma. In order to avoid accumulating this karma, We should insult sadhus, sadhvis, shravaks and shravikas. We should be humble followers of the Jain religion. We should help others to follow it, and we should be alert and work for the peace of the fourfold. Sadhus, sadhvis, male and female householders, Jain religion. Once our Darshana Varinya karma is shed, we will develop Kevala Darshan and become Ananta Darshini. Arihants and Siddhas perceive everything that is happening now, happened in the past and will happen in future, all at the same time. Antariya, obstructing karma. Even though many of us desire to give charity, we cannot do so. A diabetic rich person can afford any dinner of choice but cannot necessarily enjoy it. You might have had the experience in which everything was set 100% right to complete the project, but for some reason you could not even start the project. Situations of these types occur because of the influence of Antaraya karma. This karma also causes obstruction to the worship of Jina and to the performance of spiritual activities. Consequently, Antaraya karma is responsible for all the obstacles we face in our lives. There are 5 subtypes of Antaraya karma. Dhanantaraya, charity obstructing karma. Labhantaraya, gain obstructing karma. Bhogantaraya, enjoyment obstructing karma. Upabhogantaraya, re-enjoyment obstructing karma. Virantaraya, willpower obstructing karma. Some of the effects of Antaraya karma include the inability to perform penance, laziness and weakness. Even if one had the desire to travel on the right path, on account of excessive Antaraya karma, one should not be able to do so. Antaraya karma is accumulated due to the obstruction of the worship of the jinas and other spiritual activities, obstructing others from doing penance, service or practicing devotion, or giving charity, not giving charity and causing of loss of others. Antaraya karma can be shed by giving charity, sharing knowledge, helping sadhus and sadhvis, encouraging others to give charity, and encouraging and helping others to do penance and service, and by showing benevolence. When we get rid ourselves of Antaraya karma, we become Antak Shakti. The soul will have no disability or weakness. It will never become tired and never fail. Mohaniya, deluding karma. Mohaniya karma creates doubts about religion and spiritual teachers and destroys faith in the jina. It obscures right belief and right conduct of the soul. Mohaniya karma causes attachment and hatred and passions such as anger, ego, deceit and greed. Of all the karmas, Mohaniya karma is the most dangerous and the most difficult to overcome, and once we overcome this karma, the salvation or liberation is guaranteed. There are 28 subtypes of Mohaniya karma. Darshan, belief disturbing Mohaniya karma. Mithyatva, false belief causing Mohaniya karma. Mishra, mixed belief causing Mohaniya karma. Samyaktva, correct belief causing Mohaniya karma. Charitra, right conduct disturbing Mohaniya karma. Ananta Bandhi, right conduct hindering Krodha, Mana, Maya and Lobha, Mohaniya karma. Aparatya Karna Varinya, partial renunciation hindering Krodha, Mana, Maya and Lobha, Mohaniya karmas. Pratyaksha Navarinya, total renunciation hindering Krodha, Mana, Maya and Lobha, Mohaniya karma. Sanjavalan, complete right conduct hindering Krodha, Man, Maya and Lobha, Mohaniya karma. Strived sex desire with man causing karma. Purusha Ved, sex desire with woman causing karma. Napunsaka Ved, sex desire with both man and woman causing karma. Hashya, laughing causing karma. Rati, liking causing karma. Arati, disliking causing karma. Bhayam, fear causing karma. Shock, sorrow causing karma. Jugupsa, disgust causing karma. Some effects of Mohini karma include attachment, hatred, envy, contempt, misery, infatuation, longing, ecstasy, anger, greed, ego, and deception. Mohini karma is accumulated on account of treating gods and preceptors with contempt, having a deep attachment and hatred, lamenting and weeping, becoming overexcited, being irritable, furious, greedy, egoistic, deceptive. Mohini karma can be shed by obscuring and observing virtues such as honesty, humbleness, contentness, and straightforwardness. In order to avoid Mohini karmas, we should say prayers, go to the Upashraya to worship spiritual teachers, and perform austerities every day. When we rid ourselves of Mohini karma, we become Vitragi. After this point, the soul never becomes angry, proud, greedy, displeased, pleased, happy, sad, or afraid. A Vitrangi soul has no attachment or hatred for anyone. Once Mohaniya karma is destroyed, Jnanavaranya Darshan Varaniya and Antariya karmas are destroyed within 48 minutes, and Keval Gyan, Kevala Darshan, and Ananta Virya are also achieved.
यदक्षरपदभ्रष्टं मात्राहीनं च यद्भवेत् तत्सर्वं क्षम्यतां देव महावीर नमोऽस्तु ते.
Jaina Agama Gyan.
नमो अर्हन्ताणं नमो सिद्धाणं नमो आयर्याणं नमो उवज्जयाणं नमो लोये सपसहूणम्.
Gati, state of existence of life. What are different kinds of existence of life? Why is someone born in different kind existence of life? Can we predetermine our next existence? Why should one be born as human? If we look around us, we see not only men and women, boys and girls, but also cats, dogs, birds, bugs, and plants. It can be seen that there are various forms of living beings in this universe. Nothing is permanent because every minute someone dies and someone is born. This makes us wonder what happens to those who die and who decides what one should be born as. Jainism explains that as a result of karmas associated with their souls, living beings have been going through the cycle of birth and death since times immemorial. Unless the soul gets rid of its karmas, it will never be free. When a living being dies, it can be reborn into one of four destinies. These four destinies or gatis are as follows: human beings, heavenly beings, Tiryacha beings, and infernal beings. Present science is inconclusive about the life after death or so-called rebirth. But Jinas, however, have explained that there is life after death, and it is you and no one else who decides what will happen to you after your death. No god or superpower decides your future. Your past and current deeds trigger the accumulation of the karmas, which in turn govern what you will be reborn as. Let us learn about these destinies. Human beings. As human beings, we have been endowed with the ability to think, and we can differentiate right from wrong. We can decide what is good for us and what is not. We also have the capacity to control our mind and activities. We can learn about the wholesome religious principles of Jainism and put them into practice by adopting appropriate vows and restraints. We can also renounce worldly life for the monkhood, which can lead to liberation or salvation from the worldly life, samsara. Heavenly beings. As a heavenly being, one has, of course, superior physical capabilities, various supernatural powers, and access to all luxuries. Heavenly life is transient, and when it comes to an end, heavenly beings feel very unhappy. They cannot adopt restraints or renounce their lives to become monks or nuns. Therefore, certainly there is no salvation in heavenly life, and such beings will have to be reborn as human beings in order to attain liberation. Tiryancha beings. As a Tiryancha, being born as an animal like lion, elephant, bird, plant, one is considered to be a lower form of life. Animals and birds may be able to think, but not nearly as well as humans, and they do not have the ability to differentiate right from wrong. There is a great degree of suffering and dependency in their lives. Only animals and birds having minds may be able to observe a lower levels of restraint, while the rest of the Tiryancha passively undergo the suffering destined for them. A life of this type is not analogous to a life aimed at attaining salvation. Internal beings. As an infernal being living in hell, one has to continuously suffer. Most of the time, infernal beings fight among themselves and cause more suffering to one another. Such a life is therefore absolutely unsuitable for spiritual pursuit. Thus, it is clear that out of these four gatis or destinies, only human life is suitable for spiritual pursuit and freedom from the cycle of birth and death. Let us not consider what leads to birth in the different destinies. Those who enjoy excessive violence, lying, stealing, and sensuous pleasures, and are too possessive, angry, egoistic, greedy, deceptive, are intensely attached to worldly life, are likely to be reborn as infernal beings in hell. Those who are simple and disciplined, observe vows and restraint, behave well, have good character, have faith in true teachers, attempt to gain true knowledge, and follow a good moral life, are generally reborn as heavenly beings. Those who are selfish, cause trouble, or wish evil unto others are likely to be reborn as Tiryancha. Those who are simple, straightforward, and admirers of the truth, have only a slight attachment, have a controlled level of anger, greed, or deceptiveness, and try to follow religious teachers, are generally reborn as human. Conclusively, we are the masters of our own destiny of existence, of life, and we should not blame anyone or anything else for our destiny. Let us be inspired to lead a spiritual life without delay, so that we may be reborn as human beings and may continue to tread on the path of liberation.
यदक्षरपदभ्रष्टं मात्राहीनं च यद्भवेत् तत्सर्वं क्षम्यतां देव महावीर नमोऽस्तु ते.
Jaina Agama Gyan.
नमो अर्हन्ताणं नमो सिद्धाणं नमो आयर्याणं नमो उवज्जयाणं नमो लोये सपसहूणम्.
Instincts. Instincts play a significant role in our life. They affect our conduct as well as behavior. They have been illustrated in Jain canons from the karmic philosophical point of view. One of the modern disciplines of science is psychology of behavior, which emphasizes the original instinct in the form of natural tendencies and modes of living, emotions, feelings. It collaborates and corroborates the karmic explanation. What is instinct? First of all, we should understand the concept of an instinct. There are two meanings. One is an emotion, which is called an original instinct in the psychological term, and the other is consciousness. Whatever we do is influenced by the impelling force of these special types of emotions. In other words, instinct samjana means particular type of tendency of consciousness in which conscious and subconscious minds are combined together and called emotions. Internal and external causes activate them to arise. The material cause of them is karmas. Simultaneously, external environment also affects in their production. On the basis of the causes of generation, we can divide them into several types. Tanang Sutra, one of the Agama, describes 10 types of instincts. The first 8 are emotional or sentimental instincts, whereas the rest of the 2 are concerned with a special type of thought process. Instinct of appetite, ahara samanjana. Instinct of fear, bhaya samjana. Instinct of copulation, maithun samajna. Instinct of possession, parigraha samajna. Instinct of anger, krodha. Pride, mana. Deceit, maya. Greed, lobha. Collective mind, ogha. And individual, loka. We trust our instincts, the original tendencies and original emotions. Tendency of escapism is fear, struggle is anger, curiosity is eagerness, search for food is appetite, paternity is affection, disgust is hatred, and community feeling is community feeling. Consciousness, the conduct and behavior are the outcome of deluding karmas, mohaniya karma. Due to the influence of instinct, man changes his habits and nature. Therefore, the above stated classification may be clearly understood in the light of karma, philosophy and psychological division. Outcome of deluding karmas, original emotions, fear, anger, disgust, jigupsa, hatred. Feminine inclinations, Triveda, sexuality, masculine inclination, Purushaveda, sexuality. Common inclination, Nambusaka Veda, is sexuality. Pride, superiority complex, greed, ownership, indulgence, rati, attachment, dissatisfaction, arati, sorrow. So in this original tendencies and emotions, if we find copulation is a sex, prejudice, tendency is superiority, inferiority complex is inferiority, earning is ownership, creation is creativity, begging is pity, humor is pleasure. The similar division is given by the well-known psychologist McDowell in psychological terms as under the original tendencies and original emotions. Escapism is fear, struggle is anger, curiosity is eagerness, search for food is appetite, paternity is affection, disgust is hatred, community feeling is community feeling, copulation, sex, prejudice, superiority, inferiority complex, inferiority, earning or ownership, creation is creativity, begging is pity, and humor is pleasure. The above given division can be concised in 3 categories. They are in the first group, instinct of appetite, fear, copulation and possessiveness. These exist in every creature of the world. An instinct of appetite is found in all. On account of this, creature feels hunger and searches for it. Really, a big part of our life is motivated by it. A number of behavior of a living being are activated by fear. The feeling of getting hurt creates fear. All creatures have the instinct of copulation. The fourth one is the instinct of possessiveness, exists in human beings as well as in animals. They collect their requirements and want to get more and more things due to this. The second group of instincts, anger, pride, deceit and greed. This group of instincts also exist in all living beings, but in man they are well developed and expressed. The first group of instincts is precursor of activating these instincts. For example, when a person gets hungry and if it is not satisfied, he becomes angry. To earn money, people use deceive methods. Once you start earning, greed sets in, which may become the cause of violence, corruption. In this way, it can be said that the former group of instincts activate, the later or both are correlated with each other. The third group of instincts are community feeling and individuality. The most living beings more or less desire to live in a group. Anthropologist Max Muller also accepts this tendency, not only in human beings but it exists in animals also. The consciousness of individuality are found in all the animates. Every creature has some sort of distinguished characteristic. Origin of instincts. Now the question arises, what is responsible of outpouring of instincts? In this respect, we illustrate internal and external causes. Instinct of appetite. Internal due to the rising of feeling and deluding karmas. External due to emptiness of stomach, seeing foodstuffs, thinking about food, constantly smelling the flavor. Instinct of fear. Internal deluding karma. External inferiority complex, visualizing fearful events, continuous thinking about fear. Instinct of copulation. Internal deluding karmas. External strengthening of muscles and organs of the body, listening or reading the copulation connected material, constant thinking about it. Instinct of possessions. Internal deluding karma, to have possession already, to listen about possession, to think about possession. In this way, instincts of anger, pride are also outpoured by deluding karmas and activated by external situations. Impressions of instincts. They are not only connected with our feelings but with physical and mental functioning structure also. They influence the external as well as internal functioning of the body. Mental states and feelings are also affected by them. We can understand them as external changes, facial expressions, vocal expressions, physical posture and gestures. Internal changes, states of mind, feelings of the consciousness, psychological responses, nervous system, secretion glands and chemistry of food. So how yoga transforms your body is also there in the instincts. The scientific approach. For a long time it was believed that the brain was the source of energy and the seat of impulses of man. Significant progress in endocrinology, branch of science dealing with endocrine system, in the recent years has established that the passions and expressions affect the endocrine system. Endocrine system is the basis of habit formation in a person. They manifest themselves in the nervous system and becomes behavioral pattern. Thus, manifestation and behavior are the function of the nervous system. But the birthplace, the production center of the instinct is endocrine system. The endocrine glands control through chemical regulators called hormones. They regulate the body functions. These chemical messengers exert profound influence on the mental states, emotions and behavioral patterns of an individual. They are primary movers which generate the powerful forces, all the instincts and urges, passions and emotions in man. These in turn generate feelings and results into action that satisfy the needs of love, hate, fear, or endocrine expressions. Therefore, it is said that endocrine system is the seat of the instincts from the gross point of view, but actually the karmas are responsible for the producing of the instincts. How the instincts can be changed. Now the most important task before us is how these instincts and urges, impulses and feelings can be pacified. In this context, you can be benefited by the regular practice of special technique of Preksha meditation. There are various methods available in this field. One of them is visualization of bright white color at the center of enlightenment, that is in the middle part of the forehead. If a person practices it constantly, he can control his anger and increase his power of tolerance to a great extent. Another significant process of Preksha meditation is perception of deep breathing, which helps to pacify the intensity of the instincts. Therefore, regular practice of meditation develops balanced and integrated personality by decreasing the intensity of instincts.
यदक्षरपदभ्रष्टं मात्राहीनं च यद्भवेत् तत्सर्वं क्षम्यतां देव महावीर नमोऽस्तु ते।